What's good, y'all? Elite Live Streams. We back with another one. How you guys doing out there? Welcome to another live stream. We back at it. You know we had to drop another live stream on the Monday. You know, Monday seems like a good day for me. You feel me? My work schedule, everything just kind of aligns on these Monday streams. So I love bringing these Monday streams to you guys. Salute to all of the new subscribers. Thank you all for coming through, man. It's always a great pleasure to see you guys, you know, interacting with the content, to see you guys leaving likes and comments. It makes me feel good, makes me feel like we're making some progress here. So to everyone who's new here, make sure you guys like and subscribe to the channel, because we about to go in today, y'all. We're gonna make sure that we're giving everybody exactly what they need. Make sure my mic is working correctly. There we go. We're gonna make sure that we stand on business, you know what I'm saying? And making sure that we're bringing you guys high quality content every single time, but as well, making sure that we're bringing situations to light that need to be brought to the forefront. And so lately, we've been seeing a full out push from not only, right, the Trump administration, who is going out of their way to find any reason to take out any Black history within any museums or any of these government monuments, right? We've been seeing that happening nationwide, right? But what we also just saw was ABC News just put out an article for Black History Month. Salute to everybody out there. Happy Black History Month. But for Black History Month, they did an expose about foundational Black Americans. And guess who had to take it down right after they put it up? Isn't that ironic? It's very interesting. Like I said, right now we're starting to see a push for history that is, you know, directly correlated to foundational Black Americans being taken out of books, being taken out of curriculums, being taken out of museums and monuments. Okay, we're seeing a total push from, like I said, not only with the government, but now we're starting to see a push from the media side, right? Because like I said, when they put this video out, it went absolutely viral, right? A lot of foundational Black Americans were thanking ABC for acknowledging our lineage and for using the specific verbiage that speaks directly to foundational Black Americans, right? A lot of people were excited about that, and they were really appreciative of what ABC put together. But as more things go, right, they start to see it trending up, and they're like, hold up, we got to take this down. Whoever it was from the higher ups, you know, of course, maybe it was the grassroots from, you know, the DNC, who definitely has a problem with what's going on right now with the delineation movement that Black Americans are a part of, right? So you got those people, but then as well, you also have the people on the right who also have a problem with what foundational Black Americans are asking for, which is tangibles, right? We're starting to see more and more now that as the foundational Black American term and the lineage becomes more into the mainstream, we're now starting to see more people trying to suppress, right? Trying to push down the content, trying to disassociate from certain things, using figureheads and influencers to speak down on foundational Black Americans and our lineage, right? We're seeing it from all different angles. So what I wanted to do today of course, since it's Black History Month, right, we are going to make sure that we pull up the receipts and we make it clear, right, that foundational Black Americans, our history can never be erased, right? It is in the fabric of this country. It is a part of every single facet when it comes to what this United States of America, which they call in modern day, became its own superpower because of what foundational Black Americans did right here in this country. You feel me? So first, we're going to pull up the article. You know what I'm saying? We're going to pull up the ABC News. You know what I'm saying? We're going to bring that up because since they took it down, they thought that, you know what I mean, it wouldn't be found. But like I said, the internet is undefeated. So nothing is ever not easy to find. Nothing is ever erased. Nothing is ever deleted. You know what I'm saying? Because a lot of people went live, a lot of channels and a lot of the grassroots were talking about this. And so a lot of people already did streams where they played the entire article already recorded, pre-recorded, and now it's able to be used as a fair use, right? We're going to say fair use, you know what I'm saying, for historical purposes and for analytical purposes, fair use, right? So here's the ABC special that they did for foundational Black Americans on Black History Month, all right? So let's hear it.
History Month, we're highlighting foundational Black Americans whose ingenuity, innovations, and labor play a critical role in American culture and infrastructure, including Alexander Miles, who invented automatic elevator doors in 1887, and Garrett Morgan, who invented the 3-light traffic signal in 1923.
All right, so look, this article drops, right? This article comes out maybe a couple of days ago, and we started to see, like I said, it starts to trend. It starts to go to the top of the YouTube algorithm, right? A lot of engagement, right? I looked in the comments and the comments were flooded with plenty of foundational Black Americans who were speaking about this story, who were speaking about thanking ABC for doing this story. And so it starts to go viral. So many people start talking about this. It started getting shared. And like I said, people were going live and everyone's, reacting as they should, because foundational Black Americans are the fabric and what built this country. So naturally, we are starting to see more of the term being put out into the mainstream media and as well into politics, right? So now that that's happening, what did I say? They have to suppress. They have to make sure that they do not acknowledge, because what that does is that confirms our stance right over here as foundational Black Americans, right? So let's go again. Let's listen to this.
Americans whose ingenuity, innovations, and labor play a critical role in American culture and infrastructure, including Alexander Miles, who invented automatic elevator doors in 1887, and Garrett Morgan, who invented the 3-light traffic signal in 1923. And our next guest is working to ensure that foundational Black Americans' contributions are known.
Now, understand, right? The term is starting to reach this level. They cannot ignore the grassroots anymore, right? This is a big part of why, it was such a major thing within the foundational Black American community, is because this is all grassroots based. Everything has been coming from the grassroots, from the bottom. So now that it has reached the mainstream, right, a lot of people were reacting to this story. A lot of people were very, very surprised, but at the same time, very grateful, because we understand how powerful this movement has become. And not only that, the vernacular aligns directly with our lineage. So it's very hard to deny or to try to call us some extremist group or to try to associate us as anything other than a lineage, right? And so now that we started to see ABC News does this expose and story for Black History Month, it already confirms what we already know. And the fact is that from a grassroots perspective, foundational Black Americans are now reaching the mainstream. And not only that, us classifying ourselves sets us apart from everyone else as we start to get into the midterms, and even as we get later into the next election cycles for the new president. You know what I'm saying?
Before the modern day toilet, the can, the pot, the throne, the john, whatever you call it, going to the bathroom used to be messy, uncomfortable, it smelled bad, and it could also spread disease. All that began to change because the foundational Black American invented the modern indoor toilet.
All right, so look, as you're starting to see, right, you see that a lot of what we do as foundational Black Americans, especially those who are making content, a lot of what our arguments are based in is not only that, just the history, right? Our history is so rich and vast that it is so hard for anyone to argue against what we've done here and the things that we've done to change the world, not just America, right? A lot of what we did right here in the roots, right here in America, have influenced worldwide. So naturally, as foundational Black Americans, when we come from a certain standpoint, right, when we're starting to now take back the ownership of our history, being intentional about, hey, man, if you guys are going to speak on us, make sure you respect it. Make sure if you're going to speak on these specific inventions that you give credit to the ones who came before that. If you're going to give a certain, respect to a certain genre of music, make sure you're giving credit to those who built the genre, those who invented the genre, those who invented the instrument who the genre was built on. Okay? All these things that foundational Black Americans have done are in the history books. And as us, right, as us who are a part of the grassroots, our job 100% is to protect that history. And to not only that, continue to raise awareness so that people never forget what we did and the contributions that we made right here. And I mean this, that went worldwide, okay? It just didn't permeate through America. It was worldwide, okay?
His name was Thomas Elkin.
Yeah, thank goodness for Thomas Elkin. And that is just one of many videos made by author and creator of Foundational Black American Legacy, Teresa Allman. She joins me now. Teresa, hey, thank you so much for your time. But I was curious, what inspired you to make videos spotlighting foundational Black Americans?
All right, so look, as you guys know, this dropped a couple of days ago. And like I said, as this was going through, the algorithm, it started to bubble up to one of the top trending videos on YouTube. So naturally, what you're starting to see now is the engagement, the comments being flooded with foundational Black Americans excited for these type of stories to be told, excited for the fact that we can now see the reflection of the constant work and the constant education that we've been using right here on the internet to now bubble up into the mainstream, so that instead of us having to constantly fight and explain to people who we are, there is no denying anymore. You are now aware that foundational Black Americans are a lineage and that it is a specific thing that can now be recognized on a worldwide platform, right? That's why when people saw this posted on ABC, a lot of people were very, very excited because that now confirms, right, the fact that the grassroots is now bubbling up as it should be to the level that it needs to, so that our lineage is respected and it is looked as serious just as everybody else's lineages. Okay? We as foundational Black Americans have done a lot of work in the grassroots level to make sure that now we have set ourselves apart, and now whether they deleted the video or not, right? Everybody saw that now, right? Everybody recognizes that on a worldwide scale, on a worldwide platform, foundational Black American is being used and it is being respected by what them doing the research and having someone who is a part of our community and who is a part of respecting the history of our community to speak for us. Regardless if this is still up or not, we all saw it. You feel me? Everybody saw it.
Alex, this goes back a few years ago when I was in kindergarten, and it was my first Columbus Day in school, and I was very excited. I sat there and I was allowed to share something. And what I told the class was that my father said that Columbus did not discover America because people are already here.
All right. And we talk about this all the time, right? A big part of, what you can look at if you're subscribed to my channel, a lot of what I do is all historical facts. I always try to bring as much facts as I can to the table so that you guys can do your own assessment and try to, put together whatever you can in your head to put the pieces together. But at the end of the day, we all know that there were people that were already here when those first quote unquote settlers who were part of the Christopher Columbus bunch got here. All right. There was already people here. There were already colonies set up. There was already wars happening, right? Since the 1600s. So naturally, if there was already a Pacific group of people who were already here, and then the admixture of those who were coming in on the boats, now you have a specific lineage, foundational Black Americans, which we all talk about. And this is something that we always have talked about, is that our grandparents, our great-grandparents, they always talked about the stories of us being native to these lands. And a lot of people, especially as foundational Black Americans, have a lot of the same stories. We all share a lot of the same similarities. So naturally, the goal now was to make sure that we protect that lineage, and at the same time, we give honor to that by speaking our truth, right? And not allowing anybody else to identify us, not giving anybody else the opportunity to tell us who we are anymore. Those days are over.
And I don't remember what happened. That was quite a while ago. But I do remember feeling that his story may not be accurate or truthful. And from that day on, studying about what happened in America was just not sitting well with me. So it was my desire to change that feeling and teach about the inventors, foundational Black American inventors, because that's something people can resonate with. There are inventions all around us that were improved and created by foundational Black Americans.
All right, and this is Black History Month. So the goal from their perspective as ABC News is not only to honor Black History Month, but as well to attach that now to foundational Black Americans, which are the grassroots of everything that we see now that Black history is even talked about, is based on foundational Black Americans and what we've done in this country, right? And so naturally, the goal, at least from what the outset was, ABC was thinking, okay, so for, Black History Month, we'll do a story. We'll as well make sure that we are paying homage to the lineage of foundational Black Americans, right? Which we already know was going down. But naturally, right? Naturally, we're starting to see now that somebody from the higher ups, whoever that may have been, made the call to say, hey, no, this is doing too much. We may need to take this down. And so naturally, that's what exactly happened later. But we all, like I said, we all saw it. Okay. We all saw this.
Yeah, certainly. Well, in your history, or in this history and in this research process, what's been one of the inventions that's stuck out to you the most?
I like to think about Miriam Croak. It is because of her ingenuity that you and I are able to use Zoom technology to put voice over internet protocol. She's still alive.
Listen, and she owns up to 91 current patents sitting, okay? One of the most accomplished inventors in history is a foundational Black American woman, okay? We wouldn't be able to be streaming right now. We wouldn't even be on the internet without the technology of a foundational Black American woman, okay? Our history cannot be erased, all right? It is an integral part of everything in the modern world today, okay? You would not be here. None of us would be streaming. None of us would be seen without the inventions of a foundational Black American woman, right? How powerful is that?
And Skype and FaceTime, when we're able to pay and transfer money over our cell phones, it's because of her. And I didn't know that until I looked into it. So, that's very powerful. We take that for granted nowadays.
100%, and you just taught me something too. I've got a research project after this segment. But listen, Teresa, because I think this work is really important. So I mean, how can we learn more about other foundational Black Americans?
All right, so look, this is a part of why they wanted to make sure that this video was taken down, is because what this now does is opens up the conversation for us to do what foundational Black Americans do, and that's educate who we are, what we've done, and specifically separating ourselves from everyone else. That would be a huge problem for what they're trying to do right now in the DNC, and as well with all of the re-elections that we have coming up here soon, right? The disruption that delineation has created is now having to be suppressed because a lot of people are interested in what foundational Black Americans are going to do in these next primaries, who they're going to vote for, what direction they're going to go, and what they are speaking about, the tangibles that need to come into our community. So naturally, now the goal is to make as much as they can the suppression of foundational Black American lineage, because what they're doing is, as much as they can, to try to suppress the grassroots movement that's happening already in motion, right? All this is happening, it's already in motion. But their goal from an ABC News perspective was, okay, this video is going viral. A lot of people are responding to it. The comments are flooded with foundational Black Americans. We now need to make sure that we suppress this because we see what this is doing and how unified the front looks now, right? And mind you, this is just what it is. It's not fake, right? A lot of people try to say these are bots and that these aren't real people. We are 43 million strong. 43 million strong right here in the United States. Many of us are very savvy when it comes to the internet. Many of us are very in the know. So naturally, when we see an article like this come on our timeline, there's going to be a lot of people who are interested and they're going to speak in the comment sections.
Well, one thing you can do is buy my book, but then there are other things you can do, such as just research. There are books available in the library. Fortunately, there's the internet. You can always look up people and look up things and just look into who invented this. And people are surprised because what I enjoy about my publishing company is that people are doing their own research. And that's what I want to see, is people actually researching and learning for themselves.
And that's what it's about. Individual research is now, the rule of the day, especially in the Black American community. Like, I'm not explaining anything else to people who do not choose to go and do the research on their own. I'll come on here, you know what I'm saying? We'll do our stories, we'll do our historical research, we'll bring up specific figures within the community. But what I'm not going to do is go out of my way to explain things that people already know in their own mind, right? You guys should already be tapped in. If you are here, if you're trying to grow, if you're trying to understand, take time alone, do the research. Because that's why, we see a lot of people trying to talk down on foundational Black American lineage, right? And trying to say that we're some extremist group, this or that, not understanding that it is specifically just a lineage. It is a lineage, all right, that goes back all the way to the early 1600s right here in this country. So naturally, when we have such a rich history like that, crossing many generations, why would we ever argue about you guys calling us a group when it's a lineage? We're just going to tell you it's our lineage, and we're not going to keep going back and forth with y'all about this, okay? The goal now is for us to continue to move the ball down the field, right? Which is looking at those specific tangibles, aligning ourselves with people who are in the government, who are speaking towards what we need and what we want in our communities. It's very simple. It has nothing to do with hate. It has nothing to do with, feeling any type of way towards any other groups. It's all about protection and honoring our lineage and making sure that the things that we talk about, we're actually going to get them. Gone are the days that you can come into the Black community and make promises and talk about things, but you are never really giving us anything in return. And those days are over. You know what I'm saying? It's a done day. You feel me? And I think, when we started to see just how we're starting to see now that Donald Trump is going out to take out Black history in certain places, right? I think it was George Washington's monument, right? So you have him who is going out of his way to remove all these specific plaques that are honoring the historical slaves that were part of George Washington's harem, right? And we saw that in Philly, right? So let's see here. Black history removed in Philly. All right. Let's see. All right. Let's pull this up for you guys so you guys can get a real good look here. Pull this up so you know what I'm saying. You guys can actually see what I'm talking about, because there's a lot of things happening all at once, and I want to make sure that we're honoring both, right? So we just talked about the ABC News article honoring foundational Black American history, that being removed, right? So now we're going to talk about or show you guys where they were removal of slavery exhibits at the president's house in Philly. Okay, this is George Washington's original plantation, because it was a plantation in Philadelphia, that there were statues and plaques that were honoring the slave quarters in this plantation. Donald Trump has ordered all of this to be removed. And not only that, many monuments, making a lot of very, very historical moments, not only just in slavery, but as well veterans and many other foundational Black American historical figures being removed nationwide, right? But like I said, you can't remove the history because it's already in the books. But let's listen real quick.
Controversy over the removal of a slavery exhibit at Independence National Historical Park. Today, all that's left, empty bolt holes and shadows on the brick walls where panels once stood at the president's house site. Some critics today coming to the site, adding protest signs in their place. The removal coming following an executive order from President Donald Trump that specifically called out Independence National Historical Park for what the president called a widespread effort to rewrite our nation's history, replacing objective facts with a distortive narrative driven by ideology rather than the truth.
All right, this is where we're at right now. As a culture, as a country, they are now trying to shift the narrative, like she said, from the actual facts to a specific narrative that they want to fit their agenda. So naturally, as foundational Black Americans, our goal is to continue to spread awareness and activism against the removal of our history in these very historical places, right? And so that's why I say you cannot erase the history of foundational Black Americans, because it is in the fabric of this country. There is no United States of America without the foundational Black Americans who built it. Every system, every invention, everything that you can see, we were an integral part in building that infrastructure, building those businesses, building that government, right? Philadelphia, the entire city of Philadelphia was built by slaves and foundational Black Americans, okay? So the history is in the fabric of this. So when you see that they're already saying that we want to replace the truth with their own narrative, listen to this.
Narrative driven by ideology, replacing objective facts with a distortive narrative driven by ideology rather than the truth.
A distorted narrative, guys. They put this in their own statement. They are literally telling you the truth right to your face. They're not even joking anymore. A distorted narrative, okay?
Over the removal of this exhibit.
Absolutely. The community has been showing up in force and also posting protest messages, as you mentioned, all over the president's house site, expressing their disappointment, sadness, and anger. The President's House exhibit opened in 2010, telling the stories of those who lived and worked at President George Washington's home, including the 9 individuals who were enslaved. Roz McPherson is the original project director.
The site came out of protest of the Black community to acknowledge enslavement in the most historic mile in the country.
On Thursday, cameras captured National Park Service workers removing the exhibit. And on Friday, even the information stand is now a blank canvas.
This is a part of, like I said, what they're trying to do is shift the narrative, the ideology into something that has to do with what they wanted to do with. There is no more truth to them. They don't care about the truth. All they care, like she said, is about an ideology and a narrative that they want to push as the government and as well as the media, right? Because the media is a part of this too, right? Is the whitewashing of history. They are that you get from both sides, the media and the government. Now you have where Donald Trump is writing executive orders to have a specific wing of a plantation that was a part of the president, okay? George Washington's plantation. He had the slave quarters and the part that was honoring the foundational Black Americans who were a part of those slave quarters. He had it all removed. Okay, just ridiculous, man.
I was very upset. So I felt as a resident of Philadelphia, I needed to come and see what had happened.
Some brought flowers, others taking a private moment of reflection. High school art teacher Miranda Thompson brought her students on an impromptu field trip to learn about what she now calls missing U.S. history.
It is crucial that we don't allow history to be replaced, even when it's history that we find embarrassing or shameful.
Listen, man, regardless of how anybody may feel, the history is still the history. And it is important as foundational Black Americans for us to protect our history. And that's why we make such a big deal when people try their best to change history, to shift the narrative, to change stories that do not align with what the facts were, okay? And we see this all the time. A lot of our struggle, a lot of what we went through being co-opted by other specific groups to fit their narrative. And then at the same time, our plight being looked at and pushed down, right? We are the ones who are considered the ones who are complaining all the time and have a problem with what's happening in America. But in reality, it's just the history. And like she said, some people may not like it. You may not like what this country history is. But at the end of the day, we can never let you guys forget it. I'm sorry. We will never let you guys forget what you did to us and what you did to this country, and the fact that you guys have to be held accountable for what you guys did. I'm sorry. That's just not going to happen. We're not just going to magically act like we can just push away all of the history and then just act like nothing happened. Like, sorry, guys, not possible.
It's wrong because it's erasure, and it's hiding our truth, and it's hiding our history.
The National Park Service and the Department of the Interior says it's following President Trump's executive order, and says after undergoing the required review, quote, the National Park Service is now taking action to remove or revise interpretive materials in accordance with the order.
We all know it's petty, and we hope that Philadelphia sets the standard for these kinds of fights in other historic sites, because it's happening everywhere.
Yeah, and it is. And she's right, you know, because that's just what they want. You know, we're starting to see, like she said, a removal across the board, nationwide, of historical spaces and places that foundational Black Americans were a part of and contributed to. We're seeing it across the board. We also saw the whitewashing of the US curriculum in schools, right? A lot of the critical race theory and the fight between that, how everything now is a conscious adjustment to remove as much history as they can to try their best to discredit the plight of foundational Black Americans. But unfortunately, as long as I'm alive and as long as I have this channel, I will constantly speak on the history of my people and the things that they've gone through and the plight that needs to be respected. That is our job as content creators in this space. The goal is all about making sure that we are protecting our history and that anybody who speaks on it does it with a certain level of respect and honor. Gone are the days for people just to say whatever and not be held accountable for the actual history of what's actually happened. Those days are over. There will never be another time, you feel me, in this space where people can go around saying that foundational Black Americans didn't do this or that. And I love the fact that it is based in a lot of history. A lot of these people and influencers and people who are starting organizations based on foundational Black American history are making sure that they are using these platforms in the right way to raise awareness and to make sure that people understand, as foundational Black Americans, this is our lineage. This is who we are. And we will always represent that with honor, respect, and class. You feel me? There will never be any situation where we will not remind people of what actually happens and what's actually going on in this country. You feel me? We're here to do a job and to actually change things with the platforms that we are creating right here on whatever, you know, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, wherever you know, are at. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, man, I just wanted to have a quick stream today. You feel me? Because, you know, we doing what we can. Like I said, Black History Month. We're trying to do as much streams and put out as many videos and trying our best to continue to keep the momentum going. Salute to all of the new subscribers, man. Y'all been super, super supportive. Love the feedback that I've been getting from all of you guys. So make sure, if you have not subscribed, please subscribe to the channel. We're trying to grow. We got a goal that we're trying to hit. We cannot do it without y'all and you guys' support. So make sure you guys like, share, and subscribe, man. You know what I'm saying? And listen, foundational Black American history can never be erased. Never. We are 100% a part of the soil of this country. No one can take that away from us. And no one can take that away from you if you are a foundational Black American. So make sure you guys never forget that, all right? My name's Brandon B, and I'm out. Peace.